Hey you guys, I'm Lisa from theScore eSports, and I'm very excited to introduce our new NA correspondent, Scarra. Welcome to the team.
I'm really happy to be here.
How do you feel joining theScore eSports and going to be the one doing all the interviews in the
Well,
NA LCS?
I've always seen a lot of Score eSport content, and I thought that being able to push myself in the direction where I could be the interviewer rather than the interviewee was really interesting, and something that I wanted to pursue. So I thought that it'd be a really nice opportunity for me.
What do you think will be, because every interviewer kind of has a style. So what do you think your style would be?
I think it's definitely going to be more analytical. So when I watch teams play, I always want to know the stuff behind the scenes or like the stuff that they're thinking. So a good example is the most important question Riot ever asks teams in the finals is, how was your preparation before the game? And that's when I learned the most. And I kind of tuned out all the other questions. So I remember a good time when TSM was just like, Bjergsen was like, oh, I spent this whole week just practicing with my jungle and my support synergy because we felt like it was really necessary for us to be able to dominate mid in this series. And I was like, that's smart, that's great, that's the stuff I want to know. And that's the type of questions that I want to ask. I think with my expertise, my background, I'll be able to ask questions that maybe a lot of other people won't be able to see firsthand and really appreciate the answers.
What's really funny is that obviously you've been in the scene for so long, you know a lot of these players. Is there someone that you're actually excited to interview?
Ooh, actually, maybe not excited, but I always like to talk to other mid laners about matchups because I think that's always something that I've been curious about because there's just all over the place, people just have different opinions. So you'll come in and be like, oh, this is a 50-50 matchup. And they'll be like, no, this is like a 60-40 matchup and this wins because of X, Y, and Z. And then someone else would come back. These are all great players in the region, top players in the region, and be like, no, it's actually this. And so being able to pick their brains is really nice for me. I'm in a position where I can do that and they can't say no. So it's like, yes.
That's true. So this NA LCS is about to start very soon. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the season. What do you think was the most surprising change in the offseason?
I'm surprised to see Slushy playing again. So he was kind of out of the scene he was kind of in the challenger scene here and there, but I'm surprised he came back in full force straight into the LCS. I'm not sure how he's going to do in the LCS, but I remember he had pretty dominant games on Orianna. He is very well known for his Orianna and LeBlanc. Situations where he would carry teammate with those two champions alone. And so I'm curious to see if maybe the break has kind of maybe stagnated his play or how maybe he's evolved and brought in a lot of different tools to use, different champions to use. And so I'm really interested to see how he plays throughout the season.
You mentioned Slushy. Is there actually a player that you think is underrated but will make a big impact this season?
Oh, I always consider xMithy underrated, but I say it so much. I think he's gotten to the point where people are giving him a lot of respect,
especially after MSI.
Yes, exactly. Where he ended up matching up against a lot of top tier jungle talent. Just the fact that you can split even against the jungle talent means that you're pretty good jungler by your own right. I don't really have anyone off the top of my head at the moment in terms of being underrated. And I'm obviously purely biased with some people. I always think Kiwi's better than anyone else says because I'm really good friends with him, and so I'd rather not say at the moment before I see them play.
And what are your predictions for the strongest teams this season? So maybe top 4.
Oh, top 4.
Who do you think will make it there?
I think COG, Immortals, and TSM will be top 3.
Okay.
And then top 4, I don't know. I don't know who fills in the gaps. So for me, there's a lot of question marks on how the Meteos, new C9 Meteos is going to look out, or how any of the new rosters from NVS or P1 are going to come in. And whenever new rosters come out, it takes some time for them to gel. And so there's sometimes you're really lucky. So I think Immortals had that kind of really extreme luck where they would just gel out immediately and they just looked to smash the entire NA LCS. And then other teams like TSM, which took almost to playoffs before they really came together. And so it's hard for me to judge teams, especially on the get-go. And so I always am just optimistic and I hope they play well.
Do you think you can have a prediction for who will take this entire season?
Honestly, I want to think that COG is just in a prime position. I always place COG top 3 every season. And in this scenario, I actually placed them top 2 in last split and top 2 in the split before. But in this split, I feel like they'll probably do the exact same thing. I think they're very, very talented. Their roster, they have, I don't like calling them rookies. They've been in the scene here and there, both Hui and Stixxay. But I think that they've had more time to work with the team. And a lot of the things that I like to see from both of them is that they're not afraid to make plays. You know, when I look at players and I see that they're afraid to do stuff, I often feel like that holds them back. But I feel like you know, there are mechanical misplays from both of them, and maybe they're not that good at certain things, but I feel like they can only improve on their way up. And so CLG has 2 back-to-back wins, and I'm really biased towards CLG, so I have to give them my prediction that they'll be first. But I can easily see something like TSM or Immortals coming up, because I think last season was actually just like pretty tragic for Immortals. You know, they kind of fell apart during one best of 5, and they were able to climb back up, but the one best of 5 was when they really counted.
I think the meta plays a lot to determine who will be the top team. So is it possible, can you break down right now what the current meta is and perhaps which team can benefit from that?
Ooh, I think with a new patch, I mean, right now it's still like very tank-oriented top laners, carry-oriented junglers. There's actually a lot of a mix-up in the newest patches. I'm not sure what's going to be very meta. Like at the moment, you see a lot of Ryze, Azir. I think they're the strongest champions, but you're going to see a lot of nerfs onto Swain and Ryze just this last patch, and Azir as well. And so I think that there's going to be a lot of experimentation. I still don't think comps at split push are very good at the moment, and I still think tanks will be very, very strong top lane. But Riot's trying to nerf tanks every single patch, so there might be a point where CLG's old like tactic where they could just split push to win a lot of games could come back, and I think it'll just be dependent on like everything changes, and so I don't want to really say what it's going to be. I think there'll be a lot of experimentation going into the first couple weeks, and since it's the best of 3, I think experimentation early in their season is really, really good.
It seems like I've talked to some other players, and they're saying like for meta-wise, there's a huge variety now. Each lane can kind of play a lot of different things. So do you think that's a great direction for the game?
Absolutely. I think outside of maybe like a couple very strong picks, I think the support role is great right now. I think Mithy just stated today that he thought that the support role is really good at counterpicking, or very key for counterpicking. You can use it to counterpick not only your lane, but entire team comps. I think support's probably in the best position it's been in a long time. In terms of variety. 80 carry is kind of weird where it's just Lucian, Ezreal, but you're seeing a lot of Ashe and a lot of different picks in that regard. I think that there's still like quite a very specific champ pool, especially for like mid, jungle, and top lane, but that's gonna get shaken up with the recent like patch, as well as like I feel like some of the new items will cause different champions to be good. Like the new Trinity Force, maybe, you know, Jackson really becomes back. I don't really see that as a high probability, but with the nerf to Echo, like a lot of things are open. I think that you might see like a lot more Vlad play. I think Vlad especially is extremely strong right now. And so it's really just kind of a hit and go at the moment. And so I just am curious to see what teams want to play.
How about the whole dragons, all the different dragons now? How do all the different dragons add to the game? I think
what happened was Riot just wanted to make it so that people fought earlier, and I think that that's smart because it's so boring to watch the games. Like I hate watching
lane swaps.
I hate watching mirrored lane swaps where I don't think lane swaps are bad, but lane swaps in the last season were the most generic lane swaps possible. They're really, really, really rote. Like you knew exactly what happened because you couldn't pressure mid lane or the jungle, and you couldn't really deviate from the norm unless you took like a huge risk doing it, because you just lost so much tempo split pushing the side lanes. Now that they nerfed tower damage, or you doing tower damage, and I think that 1v2s are going to become a lot more strategical, a little bit more strategical at the very least. And so I'm really interested in seeing that play, as well as the fact that because of that and the fact that of the new dragons, the new Rift Herald, everyone's going to be just finding a lot earlier. I think, sure, Infernal Drake's still the best Drake, and Mountain Drake's like right after that. Maybe the other two aren't as good because they recently nerfed the Ocean Drake, which used to be broken, and Cloud Drake is usually just random. Yeah, not that good.
Not that good.
But I think it's at the point where all they need to do is make numerical adjustments, and it'll be to the point where I think the dragons are great. So like even if you're getting to late game or you're getting to early game, there's going to be a lot of fighting around both the objectives, and that's exactly what, as a spectator, I want to watch, because the last season of play was the worst in terms of spectator friendliness I think I've ever had watching League.
How about new champions? Because I'm curious to whether you think Talia is a champion that could be brought into competitive play.
Ooh, I actually one-tricked her for like a whole week straight, so I played like 20 games. I think I ended up being like rated pretty highly because I was like the only person playing her with Shifter in NA, and I think that she's decent. So she just got another buff, which means everyone will now be maxing Q. And I think that she's better in that situation. She's definitely like a more control-oriented utility mage because a lot of her kit is based around just controlling areas, whether through your ulti or through your W, through your E, through your Q. So because of that, she's like kind of a mid-range control, mid to low-range control mage rather than a very, very long poke mage. And so she's definitely going to have niches where she's very good and situations where she just sucks. And I think that in terms of her seeing competitive play, she saw one game in CBLOL already, which they did pretty well with. I think the last fight was the Talia got a pick into like a 3-man W over her ulti, which is great, locked out her team. But aside from that, I don't expect to see much of her in any games unless they buff her a little bit more. I think maybe this last buff may have been enough, but I still think she may need a little bit extra because her competition that she plays into is just too good right now. So she has to compete with stuff like Swain, stuff like Ryze, stuff like Azir, and when you're and Victor, and when your competition is those champions, they tend to cloud out other champions. Even if they're good, those champions are just way too good at the moment.
Now here's another change I want to talk about, the new format, the best of threes for NA LCS. What do you think about that format, and does that add or take away from maybe the spectator side of it or the player side of it?
I think players, it's amazing, like super good. You always want to do best of series because you learn a lot more in LCS. And if you ever ask, people will always tell you learn more on stage than anywhere else. So if something fails, because everything's on the line on stage, and just having multiple games back to back, sometimes if you play 1 game a week or 2 games a week, you on the stage, you're like, wow, I could have done this so much better. But then really your next time to perform is a week later. And so being able to immediately impact the following game with knowledge that you learned in the game prior is super important in terms of player development and becoming a better player. And actually, at the same time, I feel like it's very important for coaches because a lot of times, it's really easy to have a one-dimensional strategy as a coach going into week by week. And so when you go into like a best of series later in playoffs, it's might be easier to be exposed because, you did so many one-dimensional strategies, like, you only brought in 2 comps or 1 comp a week. And it works in the best of 1 series. Like, it's not a big deal. But in a best of 3 series, you're going to need to be able to adapt game after game. I think that you'll be able to see, not only will the coaches get better game after game, so you'll see better games, the players will also get better as well. So I think best of 3s are a really, really good way to make players and coaches better. As a spectator side of you, I think it's a lot of games. So unless you're like a diehard fan, it's very hard to follow everything, especially because now there's 2 streams. But I like it because I'm like an ex-player, so I can see it from the player point of view. And I think that it's always cool for me to have more than just the best of 1.
Now I wanted to touch on how NA is as a region compared to other ones, because with CLG and their performance at MSI, everyone's like, NA is great now, they can fight against all these other regions. What are your thoughts on that?
I think CLG performing well shouldn't mean the region itself is good. I think the region itself, maybe every region or every, like I say, NA and EU are kind of in a boat where only they have like 2 or 3 teams that are world-class level. And then other regions like, Korea or China may have multiple teams in that regard. And so I think in this situation, CLG performed very well, but I don't think it should cloud anyone's judgment on what could happen in 6 months. So rather than focus on like, they're the best or they're the second best region, I just want teams to improve. And I think more than anything else, the best of 3, best of 2 play in both regions will help teams improve a lot more than people expect.
And now, finally, I wanted to ask you, for the viewers who might be curious to how you stepping into the position might change your streaming schedule, so what other projects do you have alongside this position, and how will this affect your other duties, I guess?
I don't think it will affect it too much. It just means that like the days I took off are now days that I have to work. So it's mainly I'm gonna be working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and which means that I have to end my stream earlier on Friday. But I think that's okay. I'll try to stream more on the weekends as well. It just means that like usually I would work something like 200 hours a month or a little bit more, 250 hours. Now it's gonna be pushing like 50 more hours essentially. And so all the 1 day of break or the 2 days of break that I had will just now be put toward doing interviews or like watching VODs, because this year is gonna be crazy. I can't actually watch every game live. I have to split my time a lot.
So thank you so much for this interview, Scarra. I wish you the best of luck for this season. And you guys, if you guys enjoyed this, be sure to check out the rest of our stuff on our channel.